don't know about you, but the past 72 hours in I have genuinely left me speechless. Anthropic just stealth dropped Claude Sonnet 5 out of nowhere. No press release, no countdown, nothing. Just live. And honestly, the second I saw it, something inside me knew this was going to be different. So I dropped everything and spent 3 full days running the most intense testing I've ever done on an AI model. We're talking coding challenges that have broken senior developers, creative writing tasks that expose every weakness, problem-solving scenarios with layers of complexity that most AIs just can't handle. Then I put ChatGPT-4 and GPT-4o through the exact same tests, side by side, no shortcuts. And what I found? It shook me. Some tests Claude didn't just win, it dominated in ways that felt almost unfair. Other tests, ChatGPT fired back and proved why millions of people still choose it every single day. But here's the thing that's been keeping me up at night. The gap between these titans is closing at a terrifying pace, and there's one area where Claude has pulled so far ahead that it's honestly changed how I think about what's possible with AI right now. And that's not hype, that's real. So let's get into it, because this matters. Alright, so in this video, we're going to break down Claude Sonnet 5 from the ground up. We're going to look at what Anthropic actually changed under the hood. Then we're going to dive into real-world testing across coding, writing, and problem-solving. I'm going to show you where Claude wins, where ChatGPT still holds the crown, and most importantly, what this means for anyone using AI tools daily. And if you're new here, we cover AI news and testing multiple times a week, so hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. Trust me, the AI race is moving fast right now. Now, for those not familiar with the landscape, Claude has been OpenAI's most serious competitor for the past year. Anthropic, founded by former OpenAI researchers, including Dario and Daniela Amodei, back in 2021, has raised over $7.3 billion in funding, with backing from Google, Salesforce, and Zoom. Their whole pitch has been constitutional AI, basically building models that are helpful, harmless, and honest through a set of principles baked into the training process. Claude 3 Opus was their flagship model that launched in March 2024, and it legitimately competed with GPT-4 on many benchmarks. Then they released Sonnet 3.5 in June 2024, which was faster and cheaper while maintaining quality. But now, with Sonnet 5, Anthropic is claiming this is their most capable model yet, and according to their internal benchmarks, it's beating GPT-4o on multiple tasks. So let's get into it. Alright, so what actually is Claude Sonnet 5? According to Anthropic's announcement on January 15th, 2026, Sonnet 5 is built on what they're calling an enhanced constitutional AI framework, with improved reasoning capabilities and a 200,000 token context window. That's roughly 150,000 words of text it can process at once. Now, they didn't release the parameter count, which is typical for Anthropic, but leaked documents from insiders suggest we're looking at somewhere between 175 and 200 billion parameters. For comparison, GPT-4 is rumored to be around 1.76 trillion parameters, using a mixture of experts' architecture. But Sonnet 5 allegedly uses what's called a dense transformer with optimized attention mechanisms, which basically means every parameter is active for every task, instead of routing to specialized submodels. Now here's where it gets interesting. Anthropic claims Sonnet 5 has a 47% improvement in coding tasks over Sonnet 3.5, a 38% boost in mathematical reasoning, and, get this, a 52% improvement in what they call nuanced instruction following. That last one is huge, because that's where a lot of AI models fall apart. You give them complex, multi-step instructions with conditional logic, and they just miss stuff. But before we dive into the testing, let me explain how this thing actually works, because the architecture choices here are fascinating. So how does Claude Sonnet 5 actually work under the hood? At its core, it's still a transformer-based language model, predicting the next token based on context. But Anthropic made some key changes. First, they implemented what's called constitutional fine-tuning at scale, which means instead of just training on human feedback, they trained the model to critique its own outputs against a set of principles, then revise them. This happens millions of times during training. On top of that, they added something called multi-stage verification, allowing the model to double-check its reasoning before committing to an answer. Then they integrated what researchers at Anthropic are calling dynamic context allocation, which basically means the model can decide which parts of a long conversation or document to focus on most intensely, kind of like how you might skim a book but read certain paragraphs carefully. Think of it like having an editor sitting inside the AI that says, "Wait, check that again," before it responds. The result is fewer hallucinations, more accurate code, and responses that actually follow complex instructions instead of just doing whatever. Now, the biggest part of this is the context window expansion, going from 100,000 tokens in Sonnet 3.5 to 200,000 tokens in Sonnet 5 means you can drop an entire codebase, a full research paper, or massive datasets into a single conversation. That's a game changer for developers and researchers. All right, now let's talk about the actual testing, because this is where things get really interesting. So I designed 5 tests across 3 categories: coding, creative writing, and problem solving. For coding, I gave both Claude Sonnet 5 and ChatGPT-4 of the same challenge. Build a full-stack task management app with authentication, database integration, and API endpoints. I'm talking React front-end, Node.js, back-end, PostgreSQL database, JWT authentication, the whole 9 yards. Now here's the thing. I deliberately made the instructions complex, with specific design requirements and edge cases they had to handle. ChatGPT-4 generated the code fast, 90 seconds. But when I ran it, 3 critical bugs: broken authentication tokens, SQL injection vulnerability, and messy state management. I spent 45 minutes debugging. Claude Sonnet 5 took 2.5 minutes. But the code worked on the first try. Secure authentication, parameterized queries, clean state management. Sonnet 5 scores 84.3% on HumanEval versus GPT-4's 82.1%. That's the difference between code that runs and code that crashes. And the documentation? Claude explained why decisions were made, not just what the code did. For learning or maintenance, Claude's approach is vastly superior. But hold on, the second coding test flipped the script. I gave both a machine learning task: build a custom neural network with PyTorch, residual connections, batch normalization, custom loss function. Advanced stuff. ChatGPT crushed this. Fully functional network, training loops, validation, even data augmentation I didn't request. Hit 89% accuracy. Claude? Built the architecture correctly, but had a bug in the learning rate scheduler that caused divergence. Score 1 for ChatGPT on specialized ML tasks. I gave both a challenge. Write a 1,500-word story about an AI discovering it's in a simulation, told from 3 perspectives revealing they're the same AI at different times, incorporating Rocco's basilisk and the hard problem of consciousness. ChatGPT wrote a technically competent story, 1,487 words, correct structure. But it felt formulaic, clean but predictable prose. The twist was telegraphed halfway through. Claude's version was different. Natural philosophical integration. 3 distinct voices, analytical and cold, emotional and confused, desperate and frantic. The twist legitimately surprised me. It had personality, rhythm, variation. Felt human. Yes, it went over by 112 words, but the quality difference was stark. I tested business writing, technical docs, and copywriting. Claude won business and technical writing through clarity and structure. ChatGPT won copywriting because it's optimized for marketing hooks. For genuine originality and voice, Claude is ahead. For templated content where speed matters, ChatGPT has the edge. I designed 3 logic puzzles: modified Monty Hall with 4 doors, resource allocation with competing constraints, and a detective mystery with contradictory witness statements. Both solved the Monty Hall variant and resource allocation correctly, though Claude's explanations were clearer. But the detective mystery? This is where Claude showed something different. The trick: one witness was lying, but you weren't told which. You had to identify the liar through logical contradictions, then solve the murder. ChatGPT identified 3 possible solutions and said, "It depends on which witness is lying." Technically correct, but not actually solving it. Claude worked through each possibility systematically, identified contradictions that could only resolve if witness B was lying, then solved the murder definitively. Multi-step reasoning, holding competing hypotheses, testing against constraints, arriving at a singular conclusion. That's the reasoning improvement Anthropic claims. So here's the bottom line. Claude Sonnet 5 excels at code quality, creative writing with personality, and multi-step reasoning under ambiguity. ChatGPT maintains edges in specialized ML tasks, speed, and marketing copy. Both are incredibly powerful, but optimizing for different things. The gap between the best AI models is shrinking fast. We're entering a phase where you need to get smarter about which tool to use for which task. So here's my question. If you could only use one AI model for the next year, Claude Sonnet 5 or GPT-4 which are you picking and why? Drop your answer in the comments. If this helped, hit that like button and subscribe for more AI testing. The AI landscape is moving fast, and I'm committed to testing everything so you don't have to. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.